Tell us, Mr. Wayne, what do you fear? Hi everyone, and welcome to my review for Batman Begins, directed by Christopher Nolan. This movie stars Christian Bale as Batman and Bruce Wayne, Michael Caine as Alfred Pennyworth, Morgan Freeman as Lucius Fox, Gary Oldman as Sergeant James Gordon. It stars Katie Holmes as Rachel Dawes, and it stars Ken Watanabe as Ra's al Ghul, Cillian Murphy as the Scarecrow, and Liam Neeson as Henry Ducard. It also stars Tom Wilkinson as Carmine Falcone. So obviously we've got an all-star cast here. Now, Christopher Nolan really brought the Batman series back on track with this movie, with Batman Begins. This was really the first live-action Batman movie to really show Batman or Bruce Wayne's origin story and how he became Batman. And through a very tight and very emotional and gripping script, we really come to care not just about Batman, but about Bruce Wayne, which I think is very important considering Batman himself doesn't appear for about halfway through the movie. But it really is, I think, a very admirable feat that they accomplished, that we're immediately invested in the story even before we see Batman take hold. But we really see like how he becomes Batman, like both his training and like what inspires him to take the form, which we've never really seen before in a live-action Batman film, and it's told very, very well indeed. So the actual story of Batman Begins, basically being Batman, his parents get murdered at a young age, and Bruce Wayne is trying to struggle with how to cope with this. So eventually the story follows Bruce basically leaving Gotham and going basically to the other side of the world in like Asia, and going up into the mountains and training with a group of sort of ninja assassins that basically train him and attempt to recruit him to their cause. But not wanting to be as part of the same extreme that they're in, Bruce Wayne decides to return to Gotham in order to find what he sees as a more productive method of fighting crime and inspiring people. And throughout the course of this plot, we discover more secrets about who's really behind the crime in Gotham City, and how does Batman plan to stop them. Now, one of the most immediate things you'll notice about this movie is the cinematography. This is an absolutely beautiful film to look at. The cinematography, the shots from beginning to end are absolutely beautiful. And there's tons of just practical effects here and practical uses. In fact, if you go and watch the documentary, the making of this movie, you gain a newfound appreciation for much of just the practical effects and props that they use. Like the Batmobile, the tumbler, that was a real thing. And of course, just the practical like buildings that they use, just the beautiful like natural scenery that they filmed, especially like early on in the movie. Now, this film has plenty of plot twists to keep you invested. Like, there's things that happen towards the end of the movie that if you haven't seen the movie yet, you'll definitely be a little surprised. And they're very, very smartly done too, and well integrated into the film. Now, the musical score by Hans Zimmer and James Newton Howard is amazing. It's just a beautiful musical score that fits this film and fits this interpretation of Batman flawlessly. James Newton Howard has these much more emotional, sort of character-driven scores, whereas Hans Zimmer has these very action-packed, almost animalistic-sounding scores, and they just perfectly play off of each other just tremendously, I think. Now, Christian Bale, I personally think, is great as both Bruce Wayne and Batman. In fact, I'd say he's the first Batman actor to really be able to nail both of them. I thought Michael Keaton was a great Batman, but only a so-so Bruce Wayne, but I think that Christian Bale really gets both of them right, and I think that's great. And of course, the supporting cast is awesome. I think Michael Caine is terrific as Alfred Pennyworth. I think that Gary Oldman does an amazing job as James Gordon, who goes on to be Commissioner Gordon. Liam Neeson is great as always. Morgan Freeman, of course, is amazing as Lucius Fox. Just such a great supporting cast. I'm a little more lukewarm about Katie Holmes as Rachel Dawes. I don't know, I find her character not so much that she's poorly written, I just find her arc not very compelling, and to be frank, I find her character's personality a little bit, well, patronizing and condescending at times. But that's just a small thing, really. And I also have to say, well, I think the fight scenes in this movie are good. There's definitely some really good ones, especially early on in the movie. They can also be a little bit stiff, particularly like some of in the finale, but it still doesn't detract from like the nature of, I think that what they were going for with this movie was to really sort of make Batman a more mysterious figure to the criminals of Gotham City. And Gotham City, I really do think, is just a beautifully structured, constructed, just set piece throughout the whole movie. Like, it feels and looks like a real city, because it was filmed on location, partially in Chicago, partially in other places. At the end of the day, I have to say that Batman Begins is just not just an excellent Batman film, but a great movie in its own right. And I just have to say that Christopher Nolan really brought the series back to its roots. I'm just going to give you a little bit of history. When I first went in to see this movie, I was like a teenager at the time. I really wasn't super excited to go see it, but when I watched it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. And I thought this movie was awesome, and then I saw The Dark Knight a couple years later, and that just blew my mind even more. But Batman Begins is hands down the definitive live-action Batman origin story, and it's definitely one of the best superhero films ever made, and it's the great start to what is hands down the best superhero trilogy ever made, in my opinion. So I am more than happy to give this film, Batman Begins, a 4 3/4 smiley faces out of 5. It really is a great film. If you haven't seen it, go see it. If you have seen it, watch it again. The next Batman film I will review is not just my favorite Batman movie, but one of my favorite movies of all time, The Dark Knight. And a little bit before The Dark Knight, Batman Begins has what might be one of the best cliffhangers in film history that leads up to The Dark Knight. So, it's another just great thing to appreciate about this great film. Anyway, thank you so much for watching my review, and until next time, I'm Batman. Peace out.